Alright, so welcome back to lesson 7. In lesson 1, we look on the purpose of the steering system. We look on the 5 purposes. We identify the parts that make up the steering column. We explain those purposes. I describe the procedure how to remove a steering column, and we inspect the steering column for any physical defect. So we're going to look now on lesson 2. And lesson 2 is introduction to rock and pinion steering box, and we're going to look on the manual aspect of the steering box, not the hydraulic rock and pinion steering box. So let us go to the vehicle that we were looking on, the steering column earlier. So as you can see, we have fit up back everything, screw it up back, and it is fairly easy. The same procedure that we used to disassemble it, we just repeat that procedure and assemble it back. Alright, so where can we find the rock and pinion on a motor car? If we should look right here, we will call the firewall. And if you should look down here, I don't know how much you can see it. Alright, here is the rock and pinion out of the vehicle. Here you can see the boot, and this component goes straight across to this side right here. Alright, so that's where we find the rock and pinion. It's normally held down by a 2 grommet rubber. If we should look on this vehicle right here, this would be an extension of the rock and pinion. Here we have the boot, we have the tie rod end, and we have the rocking right here. Alright, so that's it. Come here, we have already removed a rock and pinion from the vehicle, and we are looking at the manual aspect of the rock and pinion. So what are the objectives? State 2 purpose of the common steering box used on motor vehicle, and the 2 common steering box used on motor vehicle is the rock and pinion, which is this one right here. Here it is, the rock and pinion, this entire component right here. And we have the recirculating ball steering box, but that is mostly used on heavy duty unit now, but in the past it normally used on cars and pickup, etc. So what is the purpose of the rock and pinion? Whenever we turn the steering column right here, here is our steering column. Whenever we turn the steering wheel right here, all this turning motion will come to right here. Alright, so you can see the vice grip, and when we turn it, watch what happened to right here. You notice it comes in and it comes out. So the purpose of our rock and pinion is to convert rotary motion of the steering wheel into, what should we call it, reciprocating motion, or to back and forth motion, or to left and right motion. So let us just call it left and right, because we actually steer the vehicle either left or right. So the purpose of our rock and pinion is to convert rotary motion of the steering wheel, just like how I'm turning now, just like how I'm turning this vice grip now. And if you should look on this section of the rock and pinion right here, it can turn left and right. Alright, so that is the basic purpose of our steering rock and pinion steering box. Identify the manual operated parts of the rock and pinion steering. Alright, this entire component right here is our rock and pinion. Right here is what we call the body of the rock and pinion right here. So from right here to right here is what we call the body. Inside the body of the rock and pinion, we'll find it a Teflon type bushing. We will find the rock gear. I soon show you how the rock gear look. We'll find a pinion, and then right here is an adjuster, and this is for when the rock and pinion get wear, adjustment can take place. The boot, which is right here, so I'm just gonna slide off this boot. Alright, good. And what you're seeing right here is the back of the rock gear, right here, the back of the rock gear. And this is all the rock gear. See these teeth? These are the teeth that cut in the rock gear. All right, the pinion, we're not gonna see the pinion from right here because we'd have to disassemble the rock and pinion. Well, why the manual rock and pinion is still important is because some shop they do rebuild manual rock and pinion, and based on how the EPS is operated in the vehicle, they might have the electrical motor built in within the steering column. Then we have the rock gear. So it is still important to know the element of the manual rock and pinion. And like in the early 1990s, vehicles like Suzuki Swift and Toyota Starlet and vehicles like in the 1985 would use rock and pinion. Alright, so let us inspect the parts of this rock and pinion here for any defect. Right here, which we call the rock end. So here we have the, pay attention to the pipe. Here we have the body. Inside the body we have the rock gear. So the body, the rock gear, the adjuster, and right in here we'll have the pinion gear, and on both ends we'll have the rock end. We have the boots, we have the tie rod end and the tie rod end ball joint. So I think I've identified most parts that make up a manual rock and pinion. Same thing for the hydraulic, but just different body segment. Alright, so let us inspect these parts for defects now. Let us start with the tie rod and ball joint, because in most cases the well, this is tight, so this is fairly good. The tie rod and joint right here, and this can screw off, of course. When you buy it at the shop, you should look right here where the ball joint is.